But how about a dog that'll mow your lawn? Yes, it's true. This is Miss Piggy. Bob Duggar owns the Rottweiler and says it all began with Miss Piggy barking every time he got out the mower. So for kicks, he put her on the seat.
And now he can't get Miss Piggy off that mower. Duggar says the best thing about it is Miss Piggy doesn't complain when she's dog-tired and doesn't even ask for an allowance. But Miss Piggy will have to put the lawnmower aside for a while, and soon. She's expecting little Miss Piggies real quick.
Looks like she's having fun. Thanks for making us your choice for news.
Thinking about a nursing home for someone you love is never easy. But this book, When Love Gets Tough, the nursing home decision can help. For your free copy, call Manor Healthcare, 1-800-396-CARE.
The Browns may be off this week, but we've still got plenty of good seats left for Sunday. Stop by and get one free at Thistledown. Won't you lift me up? That's right. Every fan with paid admission this Sunday gets a free stadium seat cushion. Great for any sporting event. Then on Columbus Day Monday, it's Camptown Day at the Races, featuring big fun at small prices. Only at the fastest game in town, Thistledown.
Yeah! What makes Centennial Mortgage Company better than the competition?
We decided on Centennial
because they gave us a better package overall. So many of our friends had trouble with their mortgage companies.
But for us, Centennial made it so easy.
It's nice to work with a company
that puts the customer first.
Customer first financing is what Centennial is all about. So for home equity loans, refinances, and first mortgages, call Centennial now.
We called Centennial.
And you should too.
Whatever financing you need for your home.
Take our advice. Call Centennial.
Coming up this week on Entertainment Tonight, strut your stuff with those gorgeous hunts from Models, Inc. Tone your bond with Kathy Ireland and go ringside for an exclusive first look at the Mike Tyson movie. But first, Travolta's back in the limelight with Pulp Fiction, and critics are saying he's better than ever. Hear why the former king of disco has become the real comeback kid. And don't miss our Barbra Streisand exclusive, only on the next Entertainment Tonight.
Tonight at 7:30 on Channel 3.
The way I see it, everyone ought to have an assigned seat. And this here is mine.
Fly for peanuts and get an assigned seat, too.
Julia Roberts' troubled brother Eric on the next hard copy.
American troops step up their role in Haiti, storming a paramilitary headquarters. A deep-diving robot camera finds the Estonia, the death boat for more than 900. And tonight we begin a series on women's health, the slow progress on breast cancer.
From NBC News, this is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
Good evening. From the moment they arrived in Haiti 2 weeks ago, American troops have been on an uncertain mission, a standby force one day, aggressive protectors the next. Well, today, U.S. forces went on the offensive. They stormed the headquarters of one of the anti-democratic paramilitary groups. NBC's Jim Maceda again tonight from Port-au-Prince.
It was the most deliberate American raid staged to date. Over 100 troops with tanks surrounded FRAP headquarters, the heart of Haiti's most notorious paramilitary group, with orders to detain and disarm everyone inside. Though FRAP members had warned they would fight to the death, when the moment came, they offered no resistance. Haitians cheered as some 25 arrested civilians were put on military trucks, along with their weapons.
We're going to take them with us for both their own safety and ours. If we release them here, the crowd will tear them apart.
One suspected gunman was spotted and beaten by the crowd. U.S. troops managed to save him.
Despite seizing some 30 pistols and automatic weapons from armed individuals and a few guns from inside FRAP headquarters, U.S. troops found no major arms cache here. Clearly, the FRAP people knew the U.S. troops were coming.
Also arrested and gagged, a contingent of Haitian police who were stopped before they arrived on the scene. An apparent sign that the U.S. military was shifting its policy from cooperating with Haitian authorities.
We will aggressively pursue taking the violent actors off the street and taking the illegal arms away from them in whatever means we need to do it.
After the raid, Haitians celebrated, trashing FRAP headquarters and a nearby bar frequented by their gunmen. Elsewhere today, U.S. troops raided private homes in affluent Port-au-Prince. They seized several weapons, including a mortar, from this rich businessman's mansion. But at the port, U.S. troops seemed to resist getting involved. This Humvee patrol just drove by as looters stole sugar and milk powder from a warehouse, and only showed up after store owners fired weapons to scatter the crowd. One U.S. soldier who did get involved paid dearly, shot and wounded by Haitians overnight in the southern town of Lake Cay when he ordered them to stop. His condition is now stable. With the role of U.S. peacekeepers here still confused and some frap voices already promising revenge, what looked like an American victory march today may be short-lived. Jim Maceda, NBC News, Port-au-Prince.
A senior Clinton administration official describes the rules of engagement for American forces in Haiti as being flexible. Well, to critics, that means uncertain. And as NBC's Ed Rabel tells us from the Pentagon tonight, Defense Department officials are beginning to be defensive.
Administration officials pointed to the arrival in Haiti today of about 200 troops from Caribbean nations as more evidence that the military mission there is right on track. That U.S. forces there are not, as some critics charge, victims of mission creep.
I think that the mission has not changed one bit.
Even today's dramatic crackdown on civilian gunmen by U.S. troops in Port-au-Prince did not stop the Pentagon from denying that the mission has not changed. Still, listen to General Shalikashvili on September 20th.
We are not in a business of doing the day-to-day law and order.
The chairman of the Joint Chiefs also said we'd leave the dangerous job of house-to-house searches for weapons up to the Haitians. But today, a Pentagon official told NBC News that if the Haitians refused, U.S. troops may have to step in. As U.S. officials today honored GIs killed in Somalia a year ago, there were continued warnings from within the Pentagon that U.S. troops in Haiti should not be used as cops on the beat. Still, administration officials insist that if the Haitian military can't disarm the thugs in Haiti, then U.S. forces will have to do so. If that is called mission creep, they insist, then so be it. Ed Rabel, NBC News, the Pentagon.
At the same time tonight in Washington, a major cabinet resignation. That's topic 2. The fall of Agriculture Secretary Mike Espy, who admitted taking personal gifts from major agricultural interests. Here's NBC's Andrea Mitchell.
After months of controversy, Mike Espy said he would quit at the end of the year, but would continue to fight charges that he violated government ethics rules by accepting gifts from people who do business with the Agriculture Department.
But inasmuch as I was indeed careless in managing some of the details of my personal activities, I have failed myself. And for that, I apologize to the President and to the loyal people who have served so well.
The White House says Espy will have nothing further to do with either the meat or poultry industry, from whom he accepted free tickets, hotels, and plane rides. Espy has already repaid $7,600 in expenses. White House officials said Chief of Staff Panetta, in essence, asked for Espy's resignation after discovering that he had billed a Jeep to the government and that his girlfriend had obtained a $1,200 scholarship from Tyson's Foods, the Arkansas poultry company. Only hours earlier, the president had praised Espy for his work on agriculture reform and world trade.
And to pay a special word of thanks to Secretary Espy, who is here and whose agriculture reform bill just passed the Congress.
But moments later, Espy was again on the defensive. Do you think you're embarrassing the president at this point with all of these reports?
I really can't talk about it right now.
That's because, according to White House officials, he had just met with Panetta and agreed to quit. By stepping in, Panetta took the president off the hook. Mr. Clinton's aides know that he is reluctant to fire anyone, especially not a longtime political ally like Mike Espy.
People are susceptible to temptations and poor judgment, and that's exactly what's happening here.
In an unusually tough written statement, the president said he is troubled by some of the incidents and that Espy's decision to leave is appropriate. Espy still faces a special counsel's investigation, which will not end with his departure. Andrea Mitchell, NBC News at the White House.
When Nightly News continues in a moment, the sinking of the ferry boat Estonia. The sea gives up some secrets. Also tonight, surprising news, a man-made heart pump that works. And in Britain, it's kiss, tell, and sell.
It's nighttime. You've got a headache and can't sleep. You would take a nighttime medicine, but you're worried. Why? This is aspirin-free and gently helps you to sleep. This is the only one that's treated nighttime headaches and sleeplessness over 200 million times. Aspirin-free Excedrin PM. The only one made by Excedrin, the headache medicine. This is the PM medicine for headaches from Excedrin. Aspirin-free Excedrin PM.
The
beaches here are great. But the sandcastles are fantastic. Call today, 1-800-44-MEXICO.
You should try Citrucel. Citrucel is different. All other powdered bulk fibers contain psyllium, a fiber source that ferments in your system and may initially cause gas and bloating. Citrucel contains a unique fiber that's every bit as effective, but doesn't ferment, doesn't produce excess gas. If you've had problems with excess gas when you take a bulk fiber therapy, you should try Citrucel. Citrucel, effective relief without the gas.
The mystery of what sank the ferry Estonia last week, a mystery no more. Underwater pictures confirmed today it was locks on the bow doors that failed and caused the disaster that killed more than 900 people. Tonight, the first underwater pictures of the wreckage. Here's NBC's Keith Miller.
Almost a week after the ferry disaster, the weather was clear enough for investigators to get a good look at the sunken ferry. Pictures of the Estonia indicate that the ferry and the more than 1,000 passengers and crew were doomed before they left port. The Estonia is resting 230 feet below the Baltic Sea, off the coast of Finland. Remote-controlled cameras clearly show the bow door or visor is missing.
All the locking devices which should keep the bow visor on its place are torn out.
Video evidence confirms the stories of survivors and speculation by the experts. In stormy 30-foot seas, the locking device on the bow door failed, allowing it to be torn off. The inner watertight ramp used to load and unload vehicles was partly dislodged. Waves washed into the ship. It was only a matter of minutes before the 6-story ferry lost power, turned parallel to the oncoming sea, and sank.
And you see that both iPads are broken.
The remote-controlled cameras did not go inside the ship, where some 800 people are entombed. Today's findings could result in new and stricter safety codes that could put half the world's vehicle passenger ships in port for repairs. Keith Miller, NBC News, London.
Health news now, and a major announcement today from the Food and Drug Administration concerning a new device that could save the lives of hundreds of heart transplant candidates. Here's NBC's Robert Hager.
After years of failure to develop an artificial heart that works, the government today approved a man-made pump it says does appear to buy time for those awaiting heart transplants. Implanted and attached to the heart, it takes over the organ's most vital function, circulating blood to the body. 20,000 patients a year may need a heart transplant, but because some must wait a year or more, nearly half die waiting. But in tests of the pump, patients have been 55% less likely to die. The pump takes over for the left ventricle, the main pumping chamber of the heart. When inserted, it leads from the ventricle to the aorta, circulating blood into this main artery and to the rest of the body. For now, the patient must remain hospitalized, connected to a console on wheels, but the manufacturer is experimenting with a more portable version for home use. At the Washington Hospital Center, Dimitri Johnson is one of 230 patients nationwide who've tested the device.
I feel good about myself now. I feel as though I'm going to be out there again, playing basketball, running around.
On average, patients have used it 2.5 months, but one patient used it nearly a year. Heart surgeon Dr. Albert Pfister.
The Achilles heel of artificial device support for the heart has always been clotting and the problems that causes. It really seemed to have that problem licked with this device.
For now, the government has approved the pump only as a temporary device for those facing imminent death while they wait for transplants. But the manufacturer is studying whether it could one day become a permanent alternative to transplants. Robert Hager, NBC News, Washington.
News tonight from the O.J. Simpson trial. Judge Lance Ito has scheduled a hearing now for November 7th on his proposal to ban television coverage in the courtroom. The judge cited what he called false reports regarding DNA testing and the broadcast of close-up views of jurors as the reason that he wants the camera out of his courtroom. It took less than a day to pick the jury in the trial of Paul Hill, who is accused of violating the new federal law guaranteeing access to abortion clinics. Hill's also charged with the murder last July of a doctor who performed abortions. This trial in Pensacola is expected to last a week. Hill still must face murder charges. In San Diego today, the first 24 hours of Operation Gatekeeper have ended with the arrest of 3 times the number of illegal immigrants compared to the same period a year ago. Gatekeeper is the new border control effort we reported on last week. It puts 300 additional agents along the California-Mexico border each night. When we come back, Women's Health, a special series beginning with issue number 1, breast cancer.
So, Larry, I bought this Raisin nut brand. I was expecting lots of raisins. Didn't see a one. Then I discovered these. Whoa. Turns out, Lair, they weren't plain raisins. They were covered raisins. So soft, so plump, so sweet. Delicious. That's what I said. Come on, Larry. We gotta tell the world.
Have you discovered covered raisins? Only in Raisin Nut Bran.
What exactly does the Maytag repairman do all day? He's probably not fixing washers and dryers, because we build them to last longer than any other brand. Solitario. Lonely. So whatever old Lonely is doing, it's okay with us, because the less time he spends doing his job, the better we've done ours. Maytag, the dependability people.
Now, the NBC Nightly News Data Bank. Nightly News continues in a moment.
In past commercials, we've shown you how the Nissan Altima is smooth enough to pass the infamous Lexus glass test. We've shown you how quiet its cabin is, how it's built precisely enough to pass the ball bearing test, and how the Altima can outhandle an Acura Legend LS. What else is there? Except to once again show you our logo. And this remarkable offer of just $750 down and $239 a month.
Tonight we begin a special series on women's health, and we begin with breast cancer, the health problem that women fear most in this country. Next to lung cancer, it is the leading cause of cancer death among American women. Despite recent breakthroughs in research, progress remains painfully slow. Here's NBC Science correspondent Robert Bazell.
Could I have a kiss? I love you.
Tammy LeBlanc discovered she had breast cancer when she was 27 years old. Her son James was still a baby.
I was just crying and crying and crying. And then finally I looked at my husband and said, I don't want to die. You know, I want to see James grow up. I don't want to die.
Her case is unusual. Only 1,100 of the 180,000 cases of breast cancer diagnosed annually in this country are in women under 30. But her situation is typical because, as with most women with breast cancer, Tammy has no family history of the disease and no idea why she got it.
I did all the things that you're supposed to do so you didn't get it, and then I got it anyway.
Scientists say the recent discovery of a gene for inherited breast cancer is one of the most important achievements ever in the battle against the disease. But they emphasize that the gene accounts for only 15% of breast cancer cases. They believe a portion of the other 85% may be caused by environmental factors, but they have no idea what they are.
Joanne, are you feeling any pain at all?
Dr. Janet Osuch treats breast cancer patients at Michigan State University.
It's horribly frustrating because I tend to like to look at prevention. If we knew what caused it, we could figure out how to prevent it. But we don't know yet.
Researchers suspect that something about the American lifestyle increases breast cancer risk. American women have a rate of breast cancer 5 times as high as Japanese women. When Japanese women migrate to the United States, their cancer rate shoots up.
We do suspect that there is a smoking gun or guns out there somewhere, if we could only identify them.
But efforts to find the environmental factor have so far failed. Studies of dietary fat have been inconclusive. There is no evidence implicating pesticides, electric power lines, or any of the environmental factors people often worry about. But there are hopeful signs. A recent study provided preliminary evidence that exercise during reproductive years can reduce a woman's risk for breast cancer. Another hopeful sign is that in recent years, the number of cases has leveled off. The death rate from breast cancer has remained constant for 60 years. Officials here at the National Cancer Institute emphasize that age is a major risk factor for breast cancer. The older a woman gets, the greater her risk. 77% of cases are women 50 or older.
He looked at the specimen and isn't worried about it. So
54-year-old Joanne Adrian was fortunate. The lump in her breast proved to be benign. Not so fortunate is the fact that doctors must wait for lumps to appear before they can test them. Despite some progress, scientists do not understand much about the causes of breast cancer. So while they can detect and treat breast cancer, they do not know how to prevent it. Robert Bazell, NBC News, Bethesda, Maryland.
Tomorrow night, what's being done about osteoporosis? It affects half of all American women over the age of 45. One more note tonight about women's health. A new study says that the daughters of women who smoke during pregnancy are 4 times more likely to smoke when they become teenagers. Not boys, however. The study suggests that male hormones may protect the fetus in a different way. When we come back in a moment, will Washington State silence the Speaker of the House?
It started with the idea of giving truckers a better two-way radio system. Then, with a war chest of $3,000, they decided to take on the largest company on Earth. When the smoke cleared, MCI had changed telecommunications forever. Where in today's world do you find such aggressive, fast-growing companies? Actually, there's a list of them printed every day. NASDAQ, the stock market for the next 100 years.
In business, there never seems to be enough of it. And the last thing you can afford to do is run out of it. Time. So rest assured, Delta Airlines will help you make the most of it. With over 4,900 flights a day to over 300 cities around the world. And best of all, we'll make sure you arrive relaxed and refreshed with plenty of time to spare. Delta Airlines.
It was 1 a.m. I'm hurting, I can't sleep, and I'm worried about taking something. Is it okay? What am I going to feel like in the morning? Finally, I take Tylenol PM. It stops my pain, it helps me sleep, and next morning, I am up with the sun and I feel great. Poor old Ralph can't even keep up. And I'm thinking, it's going to be a beautiful day.
Rest easy. It's Tylenol PM.
It's time to get Frank on fiber. So, Frank, which gives you more fiber? 6 slices of whole wheat toast or 1 serving of Kellogg's All-Bran extra fiber? No. The answer is All-Bran. All-Bran. Get it? Okay, Frank, checks in the mail. We'll do lunch. Kellogg's All-Bran. First on fiber.
1-800-SEX-LINE. Even if you don't call them, you could be stuck with a bill.
Hello, sexy.
How do they get away with it? Dateline Tuesday.
Politics now. This off-year election is shaping up as one of the most explosive in a long time. Republicans are speaking openly about gaining control of the House and the Senate. And there is no more dramatic example of the difficulties facing the Democrats than the fate of the most powerful member of the House, the Speaker. NBC's Lisa Myers is in Washington State tonight.
No speaker has been defeated since 1860, but Tom Foley's friends fear he has a date with history. This weekend, Foley played down his troubles, telling all who asked that this race isn't that different from other years.
No, I'm not panicking. Why should I be panicking? You know, this is, I welcome elections.
More liberal than his fiercely independent district, Foley has survived scares before, but the danger signs are more numerous this year. After capturing 55% of the vote in the general election 2 years ago, Foley dropped to 35% at a 5-way primary this year, his lowest ever. He is closely associated with an unpopular president and the leading symbol of an institution which the public ranks only slightly above car salesmen. These people voted for Foley last time, but say never again.
There's a lot of things that's happening in Congress now that I don't like, and it seems like Foley, he's head of the House, so he must be in control of it, so.
Well, I'm not very fond of Clinton, and I think he's standing behind Clinton all the way.
As if that weren't baggage enough, there is also the matter of term limits. Foley infuriated some by going to court to challenge a limit on congressional terms approved by Washington state voters last year, essentially suing his own constituents. Foley's Republican opponent, George Nethercutt, seized on that as proof Foley is out of touch. Nethercutt reminds voters of what young Foley said 30 years ago when trying to oust the district's veteran congressman.
What he said then really is that no one should serve in Congress for 22 years, that Congress needs new ideas, new energy, a new generation of leader. That's what I represent this year.
Foley fights back by pointing out that his 30 years worth of clout saved the local Air Force base.
Tom Foley, fighting for our Washington.
The message is beginning to get through.
I think if we lose him, we're going to lose a lot more than we'll gain.
But the speaker is a big target in a year when many voters talk of throwing the bums out. And he seems oddly disengaged from what appears to be the fight of his political life. Lisa Myers, NBC News, Spokane, Washington.
Harriet Nelson died over the weekend, a former big band singer who became a television legend. She played herself in the sitcom The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet in the 50s and 60s as she and her husband Ozzie Nelson raised sons David and Ricky in front of television cameras. She was the first of the television models of motherhood.
Well, I'm not cooking this turkey for your poker party.
Well, no, I know that. Gee, what am I going to do? I just invited everybody.
Well, you'll have to uninvite them.
I can't.
Harriet Nelson was 85 years old. When we come back in a moment, the princess, her writing instructor, and that book.
Concept cars. Stunning coupes built just for auto shows, not for real people. Now, Buick introduces a whole new concept. The all-new 1995 Riviera. The roomiest coupe in the world, with all the style and excitement of a concept car. Riviera by Buick. What a concept.
When you manage a restaurant all day, you need the strongest hold you can get. That's why I switched adhesives. Oh, that's good. Now I can sip hot soup at lunch. And still make it to dinner to greet my favorite customers.
Even in the hottest liquids, when other adhesives stop holding, Fixodent holds stronger and longer.
It's a long, hard day, but I love every minute of it.
For the strongest, longest hold, Fixodent, and forget it.
The new Easy Spirit. Inside, there's a walking shoe. Outside, there's a whole world.
Look for Listerine in its convenient plastic bottle.
For advice on dealing with cholesterol, you should make an appointment with your doctor. But to simply find out what your cholesterol number is, no appointment needed. The new Johnson & Johnson Advanced Care Cholesterol Test gives you your cholesterol number at home in about 15 minutes, with results as accurate as tests used by doctors and laboratories, all from the comfort of your favorite chair. The new Advanced Care Cholesterol Test. No appointment needed.
Tomorrow on Today, how the O.J. Simpson case is serving as a learning tool for law schools.
Plus, the best ways to teach your kids to write. So join us tomorrow.
And see what a difference today makes.
What is there left to say about Charles and Diana? Well, a good deal, it turns out. At least that's what a British major believes. He was Diana's writing instructor, and he says much more. Oh, dear. NBC's Richard Roth tonight in London.
Told to expect a blockbuster, British booksellers this morning cleared their shelves for the latest installment in what's become a royal soap opera, and the public snapped it up, albeit with mixed reviews.
It reads like a sort of pulp love story.
At $22.50, Princess in Love picks up the story in 1986 when Diana falls for her riding instructor, James Hewitt, a dashing major in the Royal Guards. Their bodies became electric, according to the book, when the princess stood up and without saying a word stretched out her hand and slowly led James to her bedroom. The author, a journalist who says she befriended Major Hewitt, insists the royal romance is all true.
I think that the fact is that often great passion is tragic. It can't sustain the everyday of life, and this couldn't. They both have to walk their different paths of life alone.
Today, Diana's path was stony silence on the way from exercise class in London, and the dashing major had disappeared amid reports he had sold his story for $1 million or more. That fact, more than the reported infidelity, has launched an English uproar.
It's very, very un-British to do something like that. And no one, so far, no one is blaming her. I think we all know about her unhappiness, and we're prepared to forgive her, but we can't forgive him for telling.
Buckingham Palace calls the new book grubby and worthless, but that may be only half true. The publisher's predicting a bestseller. Under Old English law, adultery with the wife of an heir to the throne is punishable by death. In modern times, it may simply make you rich. So now the question hangs like a London fog. Charles has admitted adultery, Diana stands accused. Is England's most celebrated marriage finally on the verge of divorce? Richard Roth, NBC News, London.
That's Nightly News for Monday. I'm Tom Brokaw. I'll see you back here tomorrow night.
NBC News, now more than ever.
Osteoporosis. It's not a disease you get when you're old. Half the women in America over 45 have it now. Is there anything to cure it? Get close, get answers on NBC Nightly News tomorrow.